Welcome to a special edition of Everyone's Movie Review Podcast. I'm Sean Kernan, sitting in by myself tonight because Bob's off this week. He'll be back, and we'll get back things to normal next week. But tonight, I don't know why I'm saying that. This week, for something special, we're just going to take a look at some movies that I had a chance to see and talk to directors about. One of those movies is a movie called 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot. Number one will blow your mind. And this is from Zach Lamplugh and a guy named Brian Emond. And it's basically a faux documentary takeoff on the work of Vice and BuzzFeed and kind of making jokes about the millennial style of media. And Zach Lamplugh is a guy who knows a little something about this. He's an editor and has worked in editing in numerous different types of industries like this one. So he knows from where he comes. And he's got a star here in a guy named Brian Emond, who's a really dry, really funny guy who gets laughs just from a mere lift of an eyebrow or just a look on his face, just simply being done with it. He's a great performer for just being done with whatever's in front of him. Specifically in this case, having to cover Bigfoot and a Bigfoot festival and go out into the woods and going out and with a Bigfoot hunter. And the Bigfoot hunter in this movie is a very funny guy. Of course, naturally, as I'm doing this, I don't remember the guy's name, but I should, and it's annoying. I can never remember the stuff. But nevertheless, 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot is a very funny movie. It's got a strong perspective. It's well directed. It's low budget, extraordinarily low budget, but it's even with that low budget, they do an amazing job of making you forget that it's a low budget film. Like I said, it's incredibly funny. And I had a chance to talk with the director, Zach Lamplugh, about the movie and about the work that went into it, and working with his friends to get this done, and on an extraordinarily low budget to make this work. And it was a really fun session. This is me talking with director Zach Lamplugh about the movie 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot on this special edition of the Everyone's a Critic Movie Review Podcast. Joining us now is the director of 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot, Zach Lamplugh. And Zach, thank you for your time.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's talk about this movie. This has been around for a little bit, now finally getting a release, and it's had an unusual life so far.
Has it?
I'm sorry, am I wrong? No.
It's just
I remember hearing about it.
Circuit.
I mean, hearing about it a couple of years ago, I guess.
Oh,
under
really?
Under a different title?
Yeah, it used to be called The Vice Guide to Bigfoot.
But it has been around and on the festival circuit. How's it been so far?
Good. I've enjoyed the hitting festivals, getting out through different weird outlets. Yeah.
Picked up some awards.
Yeah. We got some awards at some of these festivals. It was fun.
That's cool. Well, let's talk about the inspiration. First of all, this is a very funny movie. I watched it this morning. You've got some in the lead here. I mean, Brian is just really a funny guy. Yeah.
We'd all work together pretty much. We used to make like shorts together and stuff. So a lot of people have asked me like, "Hey, how'd you get the casting for this movie?" And I'm like, "This is all people I knew." Like pretty much 95% of this was just me texting people I know. So we all kind of knew what like strengths to play into and everything. Yeah.
Certainly, the style of this is kind of a little bit of Vice, a little bit of BuzzFeed, and an entirely a send up.
Yeah. I mean, we wanted to just kind of spoof what like millennial documentaries are like now. You know what I mean? Which is most or not, I'm saying most media, but a lot of media. Like a lot of it looks the same. A lot of like YouTube videos are like blending with Vice and BuzzFeed, and it's all kind of the same stuff to me. Like when I'm looking at how they like B-roll these videos and stuff, and yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned B-roll. There's one of my favorite gags in the movie is some drone footage B-roll that literally says that it's taken from B-roll.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that type of thing is all over YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, YouTube and pretty much everywhere, man. Everywhere that's not like a legacy media company. You know what I mean? Anybody who's like not Viacom is shooting and editing their video like that now.
Talk about achieving the style for this, because it looks exactly like a Vice video at times.
So we actually had like I've never edited for Vice. I've edited a lot of like hipster video documentary stuff though. But our producer had previously actually shot for Vice, and so when we told him we wanted to make this movie, he was like, well, I have all the cameras and lenses. You should just use this. This is what we use to shoot for Vice. So, yeah, so he was like giving us cameras and stuff that, you know, were on a Vice shoot like a month before or something. Yeah, he shot for something called Flophouse. Yeah, it was a thing that was on Viceland that I think lasted like one season. Huh. But yeah. So, you know, we talked about it too. We were like, we really hate when stuff is supposed to be found footage or like a security camera, right, but it has like depth of field. You know what I mean? Like when a security camera in a movie, you can clearly tell it's like a red cam. So we were like, no, we want to use like the real stuff they use.
It definitely it captures the look perfectly. And then, of course, you've got Brian at the center, who is just, from the first moment, he's just done with this. He's just done with it. And it only gets worse for him throughout.
Yeah, man. That's more based on my attitude. that's more based on me. But yeah. But Brian nailed it. Brian nailed the way I feel. Yeah. So how much Bigfoot media did you absorb in the time you were making this? Oh, so we actually quite a bit. We did quite a bit of research. I actually had a Bigfoot researcher like consulting on the script and everything. Like I was mostly just wanting to make sure I wasn't doing any putting stuff in the script that isn't accurate to the way that Bigfoot is really hunted, or Bigfoot hunters really like, you know, their techniques and stuff. So I was asking him like, you know, is this how knocking works? Is this how the Bigfoot calls work and stuff like that? And we actually went to a Bigfoot festival and everything. We actually got footage that we didn't use of real researchers. Like at one point we were toying with the idea of like, well, we'll have Brian interview them in character and then put it in the movie. And we were just like, it doesn't really fit or like work. But yeah, so we actually like interviewed some real researchers from Florida and Tennessee and all these different places.
Researchers.
Well, I mean, well, they
seriously. They
have the real, they definitely all take it seriously. They, yeah, man, the amount of evidence that I've had like sent to my email and stuff, because you kind of want to ask, you know, hey, is this, how does, I don't know, you ask basic questions and they send you back evidence. So
evidence again.
Evidence.
Every time I talk about Bigfoot, I keep throwing around quotation marks because this whole Bigfoot subgenre has become, it's basically just a cash in. I mean, and it's a perfect subject exactly for this, a Vice style or BuzzFeed style list. Yeah.
Have you seen the Great North Tape, or the Great North Tape? Is that what it's called? Hold on. Great North Bigfoot Tape. Crap. No, it's not called that. It's called the something North. Yeah. Bigfoot in the IMAX movie Great North. What they did was, they actually, this is weird. They filmed a whole documentary, like this had nothing to do with Bigfoot. It was made for IMAX, and it's called The Great North.
Yeah.
And then years later, like after it was released, somebody was like, is that a Bigfoot in the footage of the documentary? And it looks, something is over there. Yeah. And they asked the director and stuff, and they were like, yeah, we didn't do that. Like we didn't have crew over there, you know? And yeah, so that one's kind of weird because it's like a Bigfoot sighting like after the fact, you know what I mean? Like the movie had already come out and people were like, I think I see something in the background. I'll have to send it to you. At least this is what happened to me, is I was asking a different question and someone sent me this evidence. So now I'm going to pass it on to you.
It's quite a community that you're now sort of a part of.
Exactly.
It's endlessly entertaining though, and certainly the way you talk about this with Jeff Stevenson. This is my favorite piece of IMDb trivia ever. Jeff Stevenson spent several days in the wilderness with real Bigfoot researchers in preparation for the role. No one asked him to do this.
Yeah. He well, he's really into like cryptids and stuff. So we originally wanted this to be like when we were first outlining this movie, we were thinking of doing a ghost hunting movie, and then he just kept pushing for it to be topic. Yeah, he kept pushing for it to be Bigfoot, and he's spent some time with some researchers.
That filming that part of it and filming, you're taking, so Brian's going into the wilderness. He's got his cameraman and he's got his Bigfoot expert, and you do these little YouTube cutaways for his own channel, and those are just hysterical.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah,
talk about the decision to include that.
Well, honestly, yeah, we just wanted a place. You know what it is as far as like writing? It's an easy way for the character to like have a sounding board to be like, this is how I really feel. And it's hard to do that in a movie with only 3 people. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Or the movie actually has more characters, but there's a big chunk of it where it's like only 3 people in the story. So, if this was a different movie, you could have the person take a phone call from their mom or go unload a bunch of emotions on a lady at a drive-through window or something. Who knows? But this is out in the woods. So it's like, we have to have him talk to somebody, So, yeah.
But it also felt like a great opportunity for him to just riff. He looked like he was going crazy and loving it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We gave him like, the outline of what to say. Like everybody had a good outline of like a script, but yeah, he was going off Jeff Boyardee. He's
consistently entertaining, and really the people have talked about this in terms of anti-humor, where you're not going for particular punchlines, and the humor just sort of arises from the situation and the characters. And I absolutely see that, because Brian especially is great at just capturing a moment that you don't even need to have a punch in it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, those guys had worked together before. Like we've all worked together before, and so we all kind of just knew each other's like strengths and weaknesses and what to play into. So yeah, it was great working with like a team that already just clicked. You know what I mean? Not having to have outside factors or like a new person or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, one of my favorite parts also is this send up you do of a similar type of Vice creator early on in the movie. Talk about that. The character is a dollar sign, is it?
Dirty dollar signs.
Dirty dollar signs.
So many people have asked me when he's getting a spinoff, when he's getting his own movie, which would be so funny to just send an ignoramus around the world. He's kind of like so the Brian character is a journalist or like somebody who plays a journalist, but he fell into this like clickbait outlet that's kind of like BuzzFeed or Vice or any of these like millennial outlets. But he always wanted to make like real meaningful documentaries and cover what he thinks is like real news. But he always gets stuck with this clickbait stuff. And the other character who's kind of his competition is named Dirty Dollar Signs. And he's based off Action Bronson, who, has several shows on Vice. And that character is kind of the opposite, where he is like a hapless idiot who just like fell into this by just being entertaining. And he gets the more meaningful opportunities, mostly, I would assume, mostly because he is like entertaining, bit of a stooge, and it's probably much more like it's going to get more views to send like an idiot to talk to Justin Trudeau or something like that, to interview somebody like that, which is that seems to be a lot of Vice, where it seems to be, well, any of those outlets where they mismatch them, and maybe that's how they get more views, is they send a smart person to do a dumb thing, or they send a dumb person to do a smart thing. Yeah,
it's like you found the exact recipe of BuzzFeed and Vice.
exactly. Yeah, they're gonna get like Action Bronson to smoke weed with Joe Biden and stuff, and it's gonna be like, this didn't help anybody. This didn't answer anybody's questions. You know.
Yeah, there's a running bit in the movie about poor Brian having to go and cover various different forms of beer fests. That seems like just a really terrific Vice send.
Well, we actually rewrote that. So this movie was like totally indie, and so we actually, like, because it costs, so little, we could afford to reshoot for so little, you know what I mean? So we actually had a whole cut of the movie, and then we could take a look. Like, I'm an editor for a living, and so we took a look at like the whole movie, and then we were like, the beginning and the ending sucks. So we actually like rewrote the very beginning and the very end. So yeah, so I'm sorry, to answer your question about like gags and stuff. It used to be much goofier, like up front. The very first like 5 minutes used to be much goofier, and we opted for like a little bit less goofy gags about all the like fake news that he covers. Yeah, it used to be like, I'm trying to remember. It used to be like an interview with like the world's ugliest person and stuff like that. But we opted to go for more just kind of like trendy, clickbaity stuff to show how much he hates that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a clever way to hang all of these gags on it, is to have these various types of touchstones, and I imagine that takes a good deal of research to decide which ones you want to use.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a matter of like writing it to be like if it can be funny, writing like 2 or 3 funny gags in it, and then like casting the right people and just letting them go nuts. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if you can like cast, if you have friends that you can cast that are like right for the role and they can just improvise something really funny,
Yeah. Now, Brian, what's great about it is that you do have these kind of outlandish characters, or these outlandish things like DJ SoundCloud, or references such as that. But then you've got Brian grounding the whole thing, and just his whole attitude carries so much of the humor in this movie.
Yeah. That was also like a learning curve for me, for making going from making sketches where the main character can be a little goofy to making a movie where you have to have a main character people can relate to. You know what I mean? You can't do 90 minutes of like being goofy. Yeah.
He definitely rounds the whole thing up with him, the way he evolves throughout to carry so much of the humor and then the story that's actually being told.
Yeah. He can be kind of surrounded by idiots, you know what I mean? But he can't be an idiot, or it's like not watchable. Kind of like Arrested Development in that way. You know what I mean? Like, he's surrounded by morons that he's always incredulous about.
I definitely sense that. Well, I think this movie is terrific. Zachary, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. And tell people when they can see the movie.
It'll be out May 7th. It's called 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot. Number 1 will blow your mind. And it is out May 7th. It'll be on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, all these on-demand outlets. And you can pre-order it on iTunes right now.
Thank you to Zach Lamplugh, the director of 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot. Number 1 will blow your mind. Very funny movie. Do check it out this week. It's available now on your favorite on-demand rental services. Also this week, I had a chance to see a movie called Paper Spiders. And Paper Spiders is an emotional roller coaster regarding the ups and downs in a strained relationship between a teenage daughter and a mom suffering from mental illness. The film stars Lily Taylor in the role of the mother, and newcomer Stefania Levy Owen as her college-bound daughter. Facing life alone in a big, empty house, her husband having passed away not all that long ago, a mother begins to exhibit some strange behavior, and she spirals out of control. Dawn, played by Lily Taylor, and Melanie, played by Stefania Levy Owen, have always been close, but since the passing of Melanie's father, they've been glued at the hip. Now, however, Melanie is looking at college at USC, far away from their northeastern roots, and Dawn is beginning to show signs of strain. Then one day, as new neighbors are moving in next door, the neighbor backs into a tree on the property and refuses to apologize. Dawn and the unseen neighbor have a verbal altercation, and that would appear to be the end of it. Unfortunately, it's only the beginning. After this encounter, Dawn begins to hear things. She becomes convinced that the new neighbor is throwing rocks at the side of the house. Late at night, Dawn hears noises on the roof. They're probably pine cones from the tree, but she's convinced that the neighbor is now crawling on the roof in an effort to get at her. Melanie quickly becomes concerned, and she can see that the neighbor isn't after Dawn, especially after she confronts the neighbor's wife, who explains that Dawn's persecution complex is deeply unfounded. Meanwhile, Melanie is also navigating her final days of high school. She's earned the title of salutatorian. She's looking forward to college, and she's somewhat at odds with her best friend Lacey, played by Peyton List. Lacey wants Melanie to be more outgoing and take chances and meet boys. Melanie would rather study and just get it over with. That becomes a challenge when she meets a boy, Daniel, who's a troubled soul who cries out for saving. He's played by Ian Nelson. Daniel's a son of privilege. He's not one who takes no for an answer. He lavishes Melanie with gifts to try and get her to go out with him. He's also has this kind of charming, wounded side that appeals to Melanie, the character, and she wants to help him in the way that she wants to just help people in general. Meanwhile, she thinks that getting her mom a date might help her, and so Dawn goes out on a date with Howard, played by Tom Papa, and there appears to be some chemistry there. And these moments in this movie are really well made. The director is Inon Champagnier, and it's written by his wife, who's a tremendous writer, Melanie Champagnier, and she. I got the wrong name. Natalie Champagnier, thank you. Natalie Champagnier is the writer here, and this is based off of her true experience of her with her own mother. Went through this paranoid delusion, and where their relationship is, I don't know, but in terms of the movie, we watch as Dawn and Melanie come apart, and especially watching Lili Taylor lean into and really explore this paranoid delusion that Dawn finds herself in is really, it's heartrending. It's very sad. It's very moving, and you'll have to see the movie for yourself to see where it goes. But I think Paper Spiders is an incredible movie, and I think Lili Taylor is Oscar level great. She's one of our best actresses already, and here she just has a place to really just shine and show what a thoughtful and incredible actress that she is. And she's really the reason why I can't say enough nice things about Paper Spiders, and I highly recommend it. And I had a chance to talk with Inon Champagnier and Natalie Champagnier about the making of Paper Spiders and working with Lili Taylor, and well, this is the conversation that I had with them. Joining us now to talk about the new movie Paper Spiders, starring Lili Taylor, are the directors and writers of this film, Natalie and Inon Champagnier. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us, Sean.
This is so poignant and timely. This morning, I cover news. I'm a film critic full time as well, but I cover news. And this morning, I got a call from somebody who said that their neighbor was on the lawn, yelling that their other neighbor was spying on them, and that they wanted the police called. And it just chilled me because I watched your movie last night, and watching the way that Lili Taylor portrays just that very specific moment it's so resonant, and it hit me so hard. First of all, talk about your inspiration for this film.
Well, it's inspired by experiences I went through with my mom, who was suffering from delusional disorder, and there's different types. So it was the paranoid persecutory type, and it's just that it's believing that you're spied on, and believing that someone's out to get you, and it's really tricky because my mom, she passed away 4 years ago, but she was an amazing, caring, loving woman. And normal in every other aspect. You could have conversations with her. You would never guess unless you broached the subject of this neighbor. And then it just went off the rails from there. But it's one of those disorders that start deteriorating gradually, but it does deteriorate. And there's kind of nothing you can do at the time because there's no awareness there that they have a disorder. So, you can... It's just you try to help them, but it's very difficult, and I kind of feel like there's not a lot out there, like in terms of what you can do, like resources and things. So I think it's important. Like if I had seen this movie when I was going through it, I often wonder like maybe there's more things that could be done to help. But go ahead.
Yeah. No. I'm thinking that even by talking about it, one is able to maybe find more resources or hear from other people who are going through similar experiences. And there's something therapeutic about opening up and talking about it. And because there's so much shame that is unnecessarily attached to mental illness, a lot of people don't really discuss those things. And as a result, they sometimes don't have the resources to seek help. And it's especially hard with paranoia. I think that with some other forms of mental illness or mental health issues, people who are depressed are aware they are depressed. People who have anxiety are aware of that. People who are paranoid believe that this is reality. And it's heartbreaking that they're living in a false reality of persecution, and they're living in a nightmare that they can't be woken up from. And you can't confront it. You can't tell them, listen, you have mental illness. That usually only aggravates it and creates an explosion. So it's very, very difficult. But even beyond the more narrow scope of paranoia, it was important for us to tell a story about the more general experience that many people have of what do you do when there's someone that you love and you're trying to help, sometimes even save, and the problems are just beyond your control. But then again, we also wanted to have some lightness and levity to it, and not just tell a story that is dark. So it also begins as a more comedic and lighthearted mother-daughter coming-of-age story. But then gradually, as the mental health situation deteriorates, the movie tonally shifts more toward the drama.
To the point you were both making about the resources or the lack of resources that people have here, just kind of stealing a buzz phrase, if you will, people are going to see this and I think they're going to feel seen. I think that people who've been through this for once will feel like somebody has been where they are. And that's one of the things that what your main character, the daughter, struggles with throughout is she's alone in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it seems so rare. I think that's the biggest thing. Like people are ashamed of this and they're secretive because they think that like this is such a strange thing that I know somebody who's going through it, suffering from myself, and it's actually much more common than people would guess. And I even feel like this pandemic is probably going to bring out a lot of things, a lot of paranoia, just a lot of underlying disorders that we haven't even seen yet, but we will. So I really hope what you're saying. I mean, I really hope that people can take away that they're not alone in this and they do feel heard and seen.
And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we really do hope that the beyond entertaining the movie will also help bring awareness to not just paranoia, but in general, the need to support people who are going through mental health crises, which definitely were aggravated by a year of lockdown. Absolutely,
unquestionably, and certainly that aspect of it almost just plays in the background for me in terms of this movie, and is kind of a glass-shattering moment for me just thinking about that, how perfect that is. But the performances in this film are so sensational, and I mean, I got to ask you about Lili Taylor. I mean, she gets to the heart of this so beautifully.
She really does. We're so lucky to work with her, with all of our cast, but Lili and Stefania especially created such a beautiful relationship on screen and also off screen. And then when it deteriorates, it's just heartbreaking to see, because you feel the love that's between a mother and a daughter, and how it's threatened by mental illness. But we've been wanting to work with Lili Taylor for a long time. I remember we wrote different scripts and said, oh, maybe this is a role for Lili Taylor, maybe this one is. And when we wrote this one, she seemed so perfect for the role, and she has such a great ability to just dial it up to 100, which not many actors do.
And she also found a place that she related to it, and like all the actors, they just found that spot that shows that they're not faking it and it's real. Like every take was like amazing and real and not acting and didn't feel fake.
Yeah, it was incredible, and to watch her go all the way into that place of a psychotic breakdown was both, very impressive from an acting point of view, but also felt so real. I remember that during the police scene in the movie, I remember, we'd finish a take and I'd look back and I'd see crew members just crying, because there was something that just felt so real about that moment. And there was a lot of truth that was brought into this fiction of the movie.
I couldn't hold back during that scene. It was harrowing. It was hard to watch, but also incredibly valuable, though. And I don't want to give people a wrong impression of this movie because it is incredibly watchable. The way you establish these two characters early on, it's very strong. They've got a wonderful chemistry, Stefania and Lily. How long did they get the chance to spend time together?
It's funny. Again, they didn't know each other before, so we couldn't predict how excellent they'll be together. And then at some point, Lily lives in New York. Stefania at the time was splitting her time between New Zealand and New York. And then she flew into New York, and I was still in LA. And I told her, you and Lily are both in New York. You can meet. And I think they grabbed coffee together, and instantly they hit it off. And they just developed a relationship that you can't fake. There was real intimacy there. So and I feel like every day together in pre-production, even in rehearsals. And on set, and even by going through the scenes, it really created and solidified that mother-daughter bond.
I think visually too, early on, the way you frame them early, that they're almost shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, and then of course as the movie goes on, they're pulled apart, and that visual element is such an important aspect of this. And I thought you captured that brilliantly.
Thank you so much, and thank you for noticing it. It was actually part of our visual strategy. We really wanted at the beginning for them to be, I mean, not only so enmeshed, but they're covered in two shots, and you constantly see them together, and you feel the togetherness. They're eating together, they're walking together, they're sitting on the airplane together, and then when they're torn apart, you really, that separation becomes visually very, very visible.
Which makes the trigger of Stefania leaving all the more powerful because they are so enmeshed.
Yeah,
thanks for using psychology term.
Yeah, and then you even see moments like there's the moments when they're lying in bed together. And Stefania is holding Lily, and then later after Lily leaves, you see Stefania lying in bed in the same position, almost from the same angle, same shot, but she's alone, and you feel that emptiness that is suddenly created by a daughter essentially losing her mother.
Which is also why we chose that have the dad. It sounds mean, but to have the dad out of the picture because it's like it's a person she relies on most, and it only increases their bond and reliance on each other.
But it also it increases our worry as an audience as we're watching this. Like, without mom, what does she have? Who is the support system? And there isn't one.
Yeah, there's no safety net. Yeah, and she has to become the parent, which is perhaps the most profound coming of age experience when suddenly you turn. Not only turning, they often talk about coming of age, every experience that a teenager goes through. Especially in those movies, first love, etc. That's all coming of age. But needing to turn from a child to an adult and take care of your parent until I was parenting you, that is perhaps the most profound coming of age experience that a child goes through.
Yeah.
I might come off as just overly praising here because I'm not intending it. But I just really enjoyed the movie. And to your point, when you're talking about that, she doesn't feel like she's a grown-up. She feels like a kid who doesn't have any ideas. Because normally in a movie like this, suddenly the daughter involved develops all these skills that they never had before or that a normal kid wouldn't have. That's not Stefania. She's completely unprepared for this.
Yes.
That was the advantage of casting somebody who looks innocent and is actually the age that they're supposed to be in the script.
And evokes so much empathy, which is interesting. It's a different quality that is not often discussed about actors. You have a lot of great actors who, for whatever reason, don't evoke as much empathy. You watch them, and many of them are fantastic, but you don't necessarily care as much about their characters. And some actors, beyond their talent and their craft, are able to evoke so much empathy. And we both saw that in Stefania when her audition came in. And I think she was in New York at the time. We were in LA, so we didn't get to, or maybe she was in New Zealand. We didn't get to watch her in person. We watched the tape. And both of us instantly, I think even separately, I think we were in different rooms when it came in. We watched it on different computers. And we both instantly felt like we found the one and instantly ran off. And we have our Melanie. Because there was just some quality that evoked so much empathy and just felt so real and captivating. So we're very, very fortunate to work with actors that really put their hearts and souls into the movie.
I can say that too about the supporting cast you chose was also very smart. Especially, I thought Tom Papa was perfectly cast as just this sweet man who has no idea what he's gotten himself into.
Yeah, we just saw Tom yesterday. We're telling him how wonderful he was in the movie. First of all, it's our favorite comedian, and it's always it's such a pleasure when you're writing a role and you're like, I want my favorite comedian to be in that movie, and then they show up on set. Yeah, but also having that humor and having that. I think that those scenes with Tom where you see different narratives, you know what's going on in his head and you know what's going on in her head, and you know that the two of them have very different ideas of what's going on, and that at some point, there's going to be a clash, and that provides comedy as well as tension, because you know that it's going to explode. So those scenes were a lot of fun to shoot.
And then Max Casella, I thought, he's wonderfully employed here. Just he's kind of shady, he's kind of funny, and then there's a moment where he just does something so human and so sweet. I couldn't resist it.
Thank you. Yeah, Max was also such a pleasure to work with, and strangely, it was a very hard role to cast because we're trying to find an actor who, would be believable as that, small town, private investigator who's kind of comical and kind of inept and comes off as a little bit shady, but then has a transformation, and then you actually really relate to someone with a heart and you believe the story that they have. And Max was, of course, perfect for that. We're so grateful when he came on board. So we really enjoyed the scene with Max.
Yeah. Well, tell what else. What's for you the reason, both for each of you, what made you want to tell this story? Obviously, it's very personal for you, Natalie. It's very personal for you as well, But was there something else that really made you want to tell this story?
I think that as writers, we just end up processing whatever we really care about into scripts. Mm-hmm. Very often they don't even get made, so very often we don't even have to worry about.
Forget getting made. Like a lot of scripts die after page one because you just don't care. It has to come from the heart. You have to be passionate about it. To finish, 100 pages and then 2 years of your life to make it happen. You have to really care about it, and I think that like the story, the personal stories, and the ones that. Or even the ones that you can find a grain of truth in, or that you have a passion for, are the ones that survive.
Yeah.
Well, tell people when they can see the movie.
Well, the movie's coming out on May 7th in select theaters and on demand. So it will be available to stream, download pretty much everywhere, Amazon, iTunes, and in some theaters people can go online. We'll also post on the website of Paper Spiders, the movie. Paperspiders.com and on social media when the movie will screen different states, but everyone in the US will be able to watch it online. You can just go to Amazon or iTunes or any other place where you can watch movies, and the film will be there. All
right. Well, you've certainly got a champion in me. I'm going to be telling everybody about this movie because it is incredibly moving. Thank you. Yinon and Natalie, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for Paper Spiders.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
That interview was originally done for my radio outlets, and you're kind of getting an insight into some of the things that I get to do on the radios, have fun conversations with creative people. That's what I like to do on my radio show, and I, in my free time, anytime I can talk to fun, creative people, I like to do it. And Zach Lamplugh and Yinon and Natalie are just wonderful people who are so great to give me their time, and I can't say enough. I can't really say how much I appreciate it. It's a lot. Next week, we're going to talk about a movie called The Djinn, and I also had a chance to speak with those, and I'll post that on our Everyone's a Critic Facebook page, so you can check that out there. That's also going to be available through my radio outlets as opposed to here. This is just sort of a filler this week to get you through to the next week's show of Everyone's a Critic, when Bob will be back at full strength and we'll be back to normal, back with Flick Chart and 30-year-old movies and our classic and a bunch of new movies. We're going to talk about new movies next week that include a movie that I absolutely hate called Scavenger. So The Two Lovers. There's a brand new movie on Netflix as well that's coming out this week that I'll have a conversation about, starring Kyler Russell, which the title of which is right off the top of my head. Just escaping my brain as we speak, because that's just what happens to me when I try and remember things. It's just they just leave me. They leave me immediately. But no, that movie's coming out on Netflix. It's called, and I have it here. I do. I have it here, right? The Woman in the Window, starring Kyler Russell, who is the son, or Wyatt Russell, Wyatt Russell, the son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. I'm not cutting any of this. I'm going to just do this straight because that's this show. Wyatt Russell, the son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, and I'm going to bring you that interview as well. I'm going to get a chance to talk with Wyatt Russell about that movie and about The Woman in the Window, which will be available on Netflix this week, and it's one of the movies that we're going to talk about on the next Everyone's a Critic podcast. Find us on anywhere you stream your favorite podcasts. You can get us on Facebook as well, Facebook, and search Everyone's a Critic. We're at CriticsPod on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram as well, and we've got a contest starting next week. We'll have an opportunity for you to win a movie. All you have to do is give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast service, specifically Apple, but because that's where we get the most traction from. But anywhere where you want to give us a 5-star review and you let us know that you did it and we can find it and read it on the show, you'll be entered to win one of 5 copies of a movie we're giving away. And I'll tell you more about that next week as part of Everyone's a Critic. And thank you for listening today.